What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers, and break down what's happening to the market thus far, what you should be watching for as time progresses, what's going on with the economic calendar and earnings affecting the markets, and what I think is going to pan out for tomorrow for Tesla, SPY, and all these tickers. But before I break into devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very, very soon. Anyways, now let's talk about what's going on with SPY. Looking at SPY, we saw some interesting price action. We're just range bound for the majority of the day. We even got a small little sell off right here when we saw some Fed speakers say what they said. They mentioned some things about what's going on with the inflationary data, how not everything from the inflationary data is aligned with what they want and how the job is not done. So yes, SPY did come down temporarily alongside the market, but then we saw the buyers step in and they pushed the market right back up. We got a very strong close for SPY, and this chart is still favoring the bulls, especially because of the fact that we're holding above 491 very nicely on SPY. So I'm going to break down the bullish and bearish cases for many charts, then break down what I think is most likely going to happen for tomorrow a little bit later in this video. Let's first talk about some earnings and such. So for earnings, do not forget that right now we just had Snap's earnings come out, and this is very interesting. And then for tomorrow, we have Alibaba in the morning, not to mention PayPal and Disney after the market closes. But for Snap, let me just call something out. Snap has dropped 30% on a revenue miss and light guidance amidst what they're saying is going on around the world that's causing that. So looking at their earnings, EPS was okay, 8 cents adjusted versus 6 cents expected, but revenue, it's a little bit of a miss right here. Their global daily users were as expected, a little bit better than that. And then their average revenue per user went down a little bit, not the best. And then on top of this, what's affecting this a lot more is the fact that they're saying that, their guidance is just not the best. They're saying that there's a lot of attributed weakness because of what's happening in around the world, basically. And it is what it is. It's affecting them. So I'm not going to go into the full details about what's going on around the world, but I'm just going to say that it's not helping them. The guidance was a little bit light, and the market is very quick to price things in. So Snap has tanked very hard. Is this going to cause the market to tank? The answer is not necessarily, because Snap is nothing compared to a Microsoft or a Google or an Apple out there. It's not the same size as those companies. It's not going to have much of an effect on SPY and the other tickers. So I just wanted to note that does not mean that SPY has to tank because of this. This can just move on its own. But for other things that are coming out, I just want to mention that tomorrow, an hour before the market opens, we have the exports and imports data coming out. This is very important to understand how things are looking, the strength of our economy, and such. And then besides that, we're going to be looking at the balance of trade based off those two metrics. Besides that, there's not really much else coming out until later on during the day when we have a bunch of Fed speakers coming again. So we have Kugler, we have Collins, and we have Barkin and Bowman all giving speeches throughout the day, starting at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today, when Cash Kari gave his speech, the market actually dips temporarily. So be very careful when these Fed speakers speak between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And besides that, there's not really anything else coming out after that time frame. But just be careful because of these Fed speakers. Sometimes they can cause the market to make some moves. Besides that, there's not really a whole lot else coming out, at least for the time being, in terms of data. The fear and greed index is still very close to extreme greed. This is when you have to be a little bit careful with the markets, but this does not mean that the market has to just tank immediately. So, what this tells us is that the market's entering some risky waters right now. SPY is getting closer to those like really, really extreme levels. Same thing with the QQQ. But that does not mean that we're done just yet. We could still push in risky levels more and more and more temporarily, and there's a very good chance that it's going to end up happening. We're not at extreme yet. We're very extremely close to extreme greed. We're getting closer, if anything. Market momentum is already at these extremes, so be a little careful with that coming out. And then don't forget about what's going on with the put and call options right now. We're actually seeing a slight A little decrease right over here. We're seeing some puts being closed, which is helping the markets. This is why the ratio is getting adjusted towards the extreme greed levels. This is when you want to be a little bit careful, though. So this is a sign the market could be topping soon. That does not mean it topped yet. It could be topping in the future in like another week or two. So just be a little bit careful. These signals are still a little risky. But for the VIX, we're just barely around our 50 daily moving average. There's not really a whole lot going on with it. It's been dropping a bit thanks to the market. So we'll just see if this thing loses the 50 daily moving average again or not. There's a good chance it might lose it temporarily, and we'll see how things go from there. So, that being said, what do I think is going to pan out for the charts? Here's my answer, guys. So, looking at SPY, we got a very, very nice bounce. We held above our 20 EMA very nicely on the 4-hour time frame. And we started off a little weak. SPY was just kind of range trading, and we got a very, very nice close. We pushed nicely, so the buyers are still in control. And when you zoom out of the chart, let me just show you this. Right? Look at this. We're still on a nice uptrend. We're still holding nicely in these higher levels. We're not collapsing and coming back down into the 490s, 480s, like all the way down there. No, we're holding up nicely thus far. And then when you zoom out, or I'm sorry, when you zoom in like this, you will see that we have a very, very nice cup that's kind of like forming a cup like structure because this is looking like an accumulation that's essentially forming. What this means is institutions were getting shares, buying down here, and they may be getting ready to rip the market up higher. There's a very good chance that's what's going to happen. But here's how I would basically go about this. So if we're bullish on SPY, let me just clarify this. You want to see this thing eventually break 494. If we break this, I think we're going to be pushing up to 496 pretty quickly. And we'll see if that stops it or not. I mean, if it breaks this, 497 is coming, 499 are all possibilities. The possibilities are endless, so it could just keep going higher and higher. But I do see at least 496 is a real possibility for the bullish case. Okay. Now, if we're bearish, you need to see the same thing happen where SPY tries to break 494. We get another false break and we just fail. And then we have to sink back down to 492. But the thing is, not only is that kind of far, but we have to lose 492. And for the last 1.5 days, we've been holding it. You guys can see where we touched it, we bounced, we touched it, we bounced, touched it, bounced, touched it, bounced. We're still holding very nicely above 492. So if you want to be bearish, you need to see this thing lose 492 and start sinking towards 491. And then we have to hold below 491. We have to hold below 491 and close below it for us to turn more bearish like this. Because the last time this happened, SPY did come down to 491, and this was just yesterday, but the buyers came back and they pushed it back up. They had control. So this suggests to me that it's less likely SPY is going to collapse and start closing below 491, and it's more likely that SPY is going to try to break out towards the upside. So how could this pan out? I think what's very likely to happen is, depending on how we open, we could see SPY just attempt to break 494. And once we break it, I'm going to be looking for a nice push for 496, forming a nice cup. I don't know if we're going to break it. We'll have to see how it reacts because that's the all-time high, basically. So I don't know. I can't tell you if we're just going to break the all-time high immediately or not. But there's still a chance that if we do break it, we're going to push to the very high 490s, get very close to that 500 target by Friday. It's a real possibility. But for now, let's not worry about 500. Let's first look at 496 to see how it reacts. I do favor this a little bit more. I think there's a good chance it's going to try to break out like that. Anyways, looking at Tesla, how is Tesla looking? Tesla's looking bullish now. There's a lot of changes happening to Chinese regulations, which could affect Tesla to some extent. On top of this, I want to mention that Tesla has been just getting dumped like crazy. There was a lot of negative news that still has been coming out, but we're seeing buyers trying to defend. They're fighting hard. They don't want to see the sellers fight much longer. Institutions are starting to buy up those shares at the lower levels. So, what do I think is going to pan out? Looking at the order flow of Tesla, we're seeing buyers defending, and they managed to get Tesla above this trend line. And this is actually a very, very good break from Tesla. So we had this yellow trend line, right? We rejected, 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 rejected many, many times. And then this morning, we attempted to break this and we rejected, but now Tesla got bought back up and we closed above the yellow trend line. This is bullish. This is favoring the bulls now. Tesla has kind of like this nice looking structure right here, nice double bottom like structure. This is favoring bulls a lot more. And let me just go over the two possibilities. If you want to turn bearish on Tesla, you have to see it lose this trend line and make its way back down to 180. We have to lose 180 again, all over again for us to turn bearish. And if you want to be bullish on Tesla, we need to see this thing essentially break out, break 188, and our next target is going to be all the way up into the 190 plus area, 190.5 to like 191. Now, that's going to be the more bullish case. But one thing I want to note is that when you look at Tesla on the 4-hour time frame, you will notice that this is, it has the 50 EMA at 190.7, which could be a target. So I would say that Tesla is favoring the bulls. In my opinion, it's favoring the bulls. Sometimes what happens is we come down a little bit, we back test the trend line, so it could retrace again. But we're going to be watching to see if buyers could defend it and eventually push it to 188. And if we break that, I think 190 is going to be around the corner again, all the way up here. So I favor it's basically either getting like a little back test and pushing back up to the upwards direction like that. I favor the upside a little bit more on Tesla, and I think there's a good chance this breakout is looking quite decent temporarily, right? Not saying that this is going to last forever for any stock out there. Just for now, the market is looking like it might try to push, and I think Tesla's showing some life as well. QQQ is not looking as good as SPY, unfortunately, because we hit 427. We came all the way down to 425. We rebounded a little bit. To be bullish, I'm not going to draw everything out at this, but I'm just going to show you. We want to see this thing break 429 and start pushing above this yellow trend line. If we get back above it, we're bullish. If we get back above 429, we could be attempting to push at this resistance, but the resistance is very tough on the QQQ. It's kind of struggling to break above 430. If we're bearish, you want to see it lose 427, come down to 425 and lose that, and then start sinking to 423.8. What do I think could happen? Well, I think that it's going to follow Nvidia. It's been following Nvidia very well. We might see this thing retrace a little bit, attempts to push a little higher to 429, just kind of like trade sideways around here. It could push a little bit, but it might trade a little sideways at the same time within this range. It's been struggling to break above 430, so it might get kind of like rejected there, but still hold up and just trade sideways in this range. If we do manage to break the highs, the all-time highs, our next target is going to be 432. But for now, I think it's just going to push a little bit and then trade sideways. That's most likely going to happen as it's not looking as strong as SPY. On Nvidia is not looking the best. We were struggling to break above 700. It's a very tough area. So, I mean, I could see Nvidia attempting to establish a higher low right here at this 675 area. Then we might see this thing attempt to push back up towards the 690 area. I could see it attempt to get up back up to the 690s. Then we might see a little rejection there and just some sideways price action. But I think Nvidia is going to rebound just a little bit, try to get back to this liquidity zone, and we'll see how it ends up doing because we do have this gap to fill up here. So I think we're going to try to push up a little higher. I think Nvidia is going to make an attempt to push up, and then I think it's going to just kind of consolidate up here just under 700 because it's very tough. So look for a little rebound on Nvidia, then some consolidation. For Apple, we're looking very good. Apple looks very nice because, like I've been calling out for the last 4 days, I think it's been longer than that. We have a nice inverse head and shoulder structure on Apple. I've been saying this for a long time. We have this left shoulder, we have this head, we have a right shoulder. What's it doing? It's pushing in the upwards direction. To turn bearish, you want to see it lose 188, then 186.5. To be bullish, you want to see it basically break basically above its resistance at 190, then push up for 192. What do I think is more likely? Well, look at what the chart is doing. Okay, higher highs, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So it looks to me like this thing is going to try to push up towards 190.5. And if it breaks that, 192 could be coming into the 190s. I think Apple's going to push a little higher, and this pattern is going to pan out. So that's it for my main five I typically go over. Now I just want to transition to the other stocks I typically talk about. Um, right now, we're going to be looking at Rivian. Rivian got a nice bounce, good to see, but we're going to be watching resistance at 15.69. I think it's going to test this. And we're going to be watching to see if we could break this or not. If we break it, we're going to be pushing towards 16. If we fail to do so, we might get a rejection. So be very careful. It's going to push a little bit more, but watch resistance on Rivian, 15.69. For SoFi, on SoFi, same technical setup as Rivian. It's kind of funny. Watch 7.91. It's going to test this. If we break this, 8.16 is coming. Going to be looking for a little push. It's going to push just a little bit more, but then we're going to be watching, see if we could break 7.91. If we break it, we turn more bullish. If we fail, it is what it is. Now, the IWM, we were looking kind of weak, but we got bought back up at this lower level. We were calling out this 190 zone. We did come down in the pre-market only to get bought back up. So just like SoFi, we have a very similar setup. Watch 194.45. If we break this, we're going to be pushing for 196. There's a good chance I might attempt to do so, but watch and see if we could hold our area very, very closely. But I do think there's a good chance that's going to pan out. Microsoft is looking a little bit weak because of some negative news, but we're range bound between our two EMAs. If we're bullish, want to see it break above 406, we could push towards 408, then 410 if we break that. If we're bearish, you want to see it basically lose 403.93 at the 50 EMA, or the yellow line right here. Right now, it's indecisive, back and forth, back and forth. Price action might just continue to trade sideways. So we'll just see which way it breaks. Otherwise, it's very hard to tell which way it will go until we see the break. So watch those levels on the 4-hour time frame. For AMD, I was saying this yesterday. We got this rejection. It's looking a little bearish now. I think it might retest 169 and then trade sideways for now. It might retrace a little bit more. And we have this zone to be watching for at 165. So it looks a little bearish. Be careful, guys, with AMD. It might sink a bit. So be very, very mindful of that and be careful. For Ford, this just had its earnings. It's actually trying to push right now. 13 is a historical level. That's very important. Looking good. We'll see how our earnings go, but it's looking kind of bullish. So watch 13. For the VIX, it's still looking kind of bearish. I was saying this yesterday too. It's on a slight downtrend, losing the 4-hour 50 EMA, but now we're just above the daily 50 moving average. So we'll see if that breaks or not. It does look like it could come down to the 12s again, but just to be safe, let's see how tomorrow goes. The dollar, we were talking about a potential rejection. The dollar is going to be testing 104.06. If we lose this, it's going to sink lower, which could drag the market higher. It's looking bearish on a technical standpoint just temporarily, which means the market may get a temporary pump. Coinbase came down very hard. It was due for a bounce. We got this little bounce. So I'm going to be looking for a test of 123.11 again. We'll see how it goes there. Google still holding up nicely. Watching resistance at 146.27. We could push a little higher towards 146.27 again. And then we'll see where it goes. It's still kind of range bound, just like Microsoft. Very similar setup as well. Watch 145 as support. If we lose that, 143 is coming. Watch resistance at 146. Otherwise, we're kind of stuck. We might attempt to push higher, but we'll have to see. It's still kind of struggling to break the 50 EMA. So we'll just wait and see how it goes. For Amazon, we predicted downside for Meta and Amazon. That's what happened. It's going to test 167. We'll have to see if that holds. If we lose that, 163 is coming. If we hold it, it could bounce here. So watch that carefully. If it bounces, it's going to be pushing back into the 172 area. So if it's going to test 167, if it bounces here, 172 is coming. If it fails to bounce here, it's going to come down to 163. Just watch it, guys. We'll have to wait and see. Same thing for Meta. Very similar setup. 148 might be tested, and we'll have not 448. Excuse me, guys. 448 may be tested on Meta. If we bounce off of this, we're going to be looking for a rebound towards the 460s. If you reject and we fail to break 448, a bigger drop is coming towards 445. So it might sink a little bit more. And we're going to be watching for a bounce during the pre-market. Watch this test very carefully. A big test is coming to Meta. With that being said, that is it for the video. I thank you all so much for listening. Make sure you watch your levels very carefully. Do what you have to do. I really appreciate everyone, as you guys have been giving me lots of support recently. I'm very grateful for everyone out there. Have a great day. Stay safe with all the crazy weather that's been out there recently. And take care, guys. Always remember to be very calm when you're trading. And a lot of the times, if you don't know what's going to happen, wait. Don't make guesses. You always want to trade based off evidence. That's like a good lesson I could tell you. So be patient. Have a great day. Have a great night. Have a great evening wherever you are. Take care. The market to the moon, because the long term is still very bright. And peace out.